The story of Dracula has been told for generations. Everyone knows it, even if they haven't seen a film version of it. And while the Bela Lugosi version from the early 30s is the most renowned and well-known version of Dracula, Francis Ford Coppola decided to take a stab at creating the bloodsucker in his own vision. And what we got was Bram Stoker's Dracula. This movie was billed as returning to the original source of the Dracula legend, straight from the writings of Bram Stoker himself. It tells the story of Lord Dracula, played by Gary Oldman, who renounced God and was cursed to live in immortality. But a businessman named John Harker, played by Keanu Reeves, is employed by Dracula as Dracula is buying up land surrounding London, conceivably to feed. Dracula kidnaps Harker, goes to London, and falls in love with Harker's fiancée, played by Winona Ryder. And all the while, Dracula is being hunted by Professor Abraham Van Helsing, played by Anthony Hopkins. A friend of mine had been begging me to watch Bram Stoker's Dracula for the longest time, and I just never did. I believe I watched the intro on YouTube like a long time ago, but I had never seen the movie in its entirety. And in a way, I'm glad that I did see it. The best way I can describe Bram Stoker's Dracula is style over substance. But the style is so good, you almost forget about the substance entirely. The style I'm talking about is the visuals. The visuals in this movie are gorgeous. Coppola did a great job of blending complex shots with beautiful colors and just amazing practical effects. When you see blood in this movie, it's not the stupid CGI blood. It is actual blood. And it is like the most sickening shade of red I think I've ever seen. And all of the acting in the movie is really good as well. A lot of the complaints over the years have been that this movie is a little too over the top. And it is in some cases, but for me personally, I've always enjoyed it. I did enjoy it here. I think the biggest overactor of the bunch was the guy that played Renfield. From what I understand, in the 30s version, Renfield was a little over the top, but at the same time, he was very methodical and very cold-hearted. Like, you could believe this guy was a true villain. In Bram Stoker's Dracula, he was a cartoon. Like, Master! I have prayed for your arrival. I live to serve you. I must get it for my master. Would you care for some salt to chew the rest of the scenery? But along with Renfield, I found Gary Oldman to be just a little into the cheese territory when it comes to his over-the-top performance. Granted, he's really cool for like 90% of the movie. But when he does go over the top, he does go over the top. Basically, there's a scene where John Harker is shaving and he nicks his neck. And Dracula sees the blood and he grabs the razor and he's like, "One must be careful not to cut oneself." And then he follows that up with, "You should grow a beard, Mr. Harker." And then he does a little hand thing and then he licks the blade getting the blood. I was like, what is this, an interpretive dance? Like, what am I looking at here? And then there is Keanu Reeves. I like Keanu Reeves. From what I know about his story, he is one of the nicest, most humble people working in Hollywood today. And I will always respect him for that. He was terribly miscast in this movie. He basically is an American trying to do a British accent and failing miserably. His accent can be best described as what Americans think British people sound like. Like, he sounds like, "Oh, in due time I shall come across to the countryside and see Lord Dracula and get the forms approved. Come hither." He sounded like he was trying to do Shakespeare, and it just came off as really bad. To Keanu's credit, though, I feel like he was at least trying, but at the same time, he was clearly miscast, because Coppola must have seen Point Break and be like, "Yep, that's the guy, that's who I want to be my Harker." Reeves is excellent in action movies. Anything else? Nah. I also wasn't a big fan of Anthony Hopkins as Van Helsing, and I like Anthony Hopkins a lot. He is a great actor. I love him in Silence of the Lambs and in Fracture and a bunch of other movies that he's been in. But he's clearly trying to do an accent and not doing it very well. He is a Brit trying to sound Bavarian, I believe. Honestly, outside of Gary Oldman, Winona Ryder was the best actress in the movie. She gave a very compelling performance, and I wanted to see more of her. There are a lot of haters for this movie, and I can kind of understand why. However, I am going to give Bram Stoker's Dracula a great rating. Minus some of the over-the-top acting and some of the very bad acting along with it, this movie looks gorgeous, and it did have its fair share of scary moments. Like when Dracula was stalking that woman, that was actually terrifying. From what I've been told, the 30s Dracula is better than this one, and I am inclined to agree. I didn't regret seeing this movie, however, I do know that there are better versions out there. And that's all for me, guys. Thank you so much as always for watching. Stay tuned for Thursday, when I'll be covering The Blair Witch Project. My name is Ryan Cam, and I'll see you in the next one.